Hi, on behalf of everyone here at Canyon Lakes Family Counseling, I want to welcome you to the Thrive Parenting Support Group. This is a pre-recorded version that we recorded at our East Coast time slot. And I know that with the coronavirus and the lockdown, not everybody can make it to a live support group. So we wanted to record this for you so that you can sit at home and at your leisure and still get some of the benefit from the group. But we think that a lot of the benefit will be from interaction. So you can head on over to canyonlakesfamilycounseling.com/thrive and connect with our private Facebook group, or you can register for future meetings if you happen to be able to make it in the future. So I hope to see you there. And if not, just enjoy the recording of week 3 of our Thrive Parenting Support Group. Yeah, well, welcome to the Thrive Parenting. This is week 3. And apparently half of you are about to lose your mind, and the rest of you, you look great. No matter what anybody else says, no matter what your kids say, you look great. Good to see you guys tonight. We have a really fun and exciting group tonight to talk about school stuff, which seems like it's the questions that keep coming up and over and over. So our host tonight, Jenny Lynn Owens, my beautiful wife and author of the book Dancing with the Porcupine, is going to lead us with a panel of educators and administrators from around the country, so we can just ask your questions. Not only, guys, for the people who are here tonight, but we are trying to publish the portions of this on Facebook and in our YouTube channel and in our Canyon Lakes Family Counseling webpage. And so it's getting out there for a lot of people. So thank you so much for being here tonight. But so Jenny, take us away and lead us tonight.
All right. Well, I just wanted to start out by introducing our panel. I have your bios, but I want you guys to tell a little bit about yourself. So first of all, we have Judy Victory, and she's in Florida. So Judy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Judy. I am a foster and adoptive mom. My son is 22, and I did foster care and cottage parenting at residential facilities for about 15 years. And right now I'm in the principal of a residential facility. My background is in education. I was a homeschool mom and got my master's in math ed. So our school runs about 45 kids. They are residential normally. Because of the COVID virus, we had to send them home. And normally we don't do any online learning. So we have created packets of work, and then we're doing some online learning and implementing Zoom and trying to come up with how do we do that with our behavioral needs students.
That's the question of the week, huh? Now we have Chris Hansen, and she's from Washington State.
Hi, I'm Chris, and I have been in education since 1987, taught for a long time, and then I shifted to administration. I'm a first-year principal out at Benton City, which is a small rural school outside of Kennewick, and yes, we are in the process of trying to figure out how to meet those and not overwhelm people, and try to make it equitable, because we have high poverty, so it's also kind of interesting to try to figure out how to reach kids that can't be online, and then how to shift packets, and it's just like it's day by day. But yeah, I've also had some experience. I have 4 grown children, but I've had some experience working with special needs kids, behavioral and autism programs and things like that. So have some background in that a little bit. So
I subbed at a school. What, you were the assistant principal?
I was actually
dean. Okay. Yeah, she's awesome. I love her. We worked together at the school I was there for like a month. That was really awesome. And then from the East Coast, we have Leah. Now, is it Blows? Blows. Okay. All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I am a high school family and consumer science teacher, so that's like home ec. I've been teaching for 12 years in a public school setting, and because of the nature of my content, I teach all students from gifted to what we might call life skills, like needing a lot of supports. So I have experience with a wide range, and I am a foster parent in the process of adopting my 2 kids that have been with us for almost 4 years.
Very cool.
Congratulations.
That's awesome. Yeah, congratulations. So, both Judy and Chris, what you said, I think a lot of parents need to understand that even the administrators and the teachers are really scrambling right now. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit more? Like how, how are you guys feeling as teachers, administrators, and Belia too? Here you are, you're, the state is coming down with like mandates of what you're supposed to be doing, and you're having to kind of figure this out in a totally different way than normal. So can you speak to that a little bit?
I can speak to that. I just, in fact, had a Zoom staff meeting today, and it's really I had to really talk to my teachers about like we can just do the best we can do, because it goes so against their hearts not to continue to teach. Not to, how are we going to teach? How are we going to teach? And how are we going to provide what they need? And what does that look like? And how do we do that? I mean, it's just, and every day it's changing from at least our state information is coming in, and they're calling it continuous learning now where we are, because we're not really supposed to be, we're not doing new curriculum. We are teaching review and keep, like, our goal is to, number one, safety of families, number two, well balanced, that they're okay. It's like meeting their needs first, food and everything, and just mental stability, and then how can we keep their minds going some, like just how can we present some interactive and fun learning activities that hopefully motivate kids to kind of keep involved some, especially if they're on their own. A lot, some of our kids might be on their own without parenting help, and so it's really tricky. It's really tricky to make sure that we're providing enough so that parents don't feel alone. But then just always, and I'm just trying to keep in mind all the time that the anxiety levels on people are so high that we can't, my goal is not to contribute to that. And so it's like that, writing that fine balance.
Yeah, we're all in really uncharted territory right now. I mean, so it sounds like the states even are kind of changing their what's coming down.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, even today when we just got a new mandate yesterday from our governor. And so it was like, okay, so what does this mean for us when we get the letter, from the government that says exactly what we're supposed to do? And basically it says, we don't really know. I mean, in like really fancy words. And then it says, send us your plan, and then we'll tell you if it's good enough for you to stay eligible for everything. And you're like, well, but, and that's so different, because normally they're so strict about everything that we have to meet. And so you're trying to make sure that all your curriculum is meeting all of their guidelines. And now it's like the exact opposite. So we're doing something similar as Chris is emotional health and safety of the children and families. And then we're trying to let our parents know, like, how can we support you? We don't want to add to your burden. I think a little bit of our troubles are parents. We have about 40 families, and we have a really tiny staff, and they're all different. Like one family, they've got only 2 kids and they want them working like 6 hours a day. So they want tons of work. And then we've got one family whose mom just had a baby and he's by himself all day and he has no internet access. And she's like, I don't want anything. Just let him be with his uncle and his family. And so you have like this huge, wide needs that you're trying to meet to fit in those 2 parameters. How do we keep them all emotionally safe and healthy? And then how do we provide support without adding extra burden to them, like Chris was saying?
Well, and I think that's, it sounds like that's kind of been the problem, or the question they've been trying to answer is, because there's this big thing of equity. So, how does each child receive the same education? And it's really, I would say, I don't know, you guys can speak to that, but it almost seems impossible to do that in the current situation. I don't know.
It's the parents that are going to be the most active to get those rights. We've already gotten notices about having like IEP meetings virtually and finishing, like, what does that mean for this kid in this situation? But basically which parents will show up for those meetings. And that's not really equitable to say, okay, this child's not gonna get the services because their parent's not as active as another parent. That's one thing we're running into.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and then like you said, the poverty situation. So, depending on, if they have access to internet or computers
Food.
or food. Yeah. I mean, that's, Leah, do you have anything to add to that?
Just kind of echoing that idea that like what I'm hearing from my principal and superintendent is go easy, like as teachers, go easy on yourself. And so that's what I would say to parents is this is, like you guys have already said, this is uncharted territory. I kind of see this as as school districts, we're trying to provide education so that kids can at least finish out the year. And we're just kind of, I don't want to say meeting the bare minimum because that's not really, but like, it's like you guys have pointed out, it's probably not going to be to the standards that they would be getting in the classroom. And I mean, teachers, people in education care about people. That's why they're in that field. They care more about the well-being of your kids and your family than they do about them completing the work. I mean, I think 99% of your teachers, that's how they feel. So I would just give yourselves a lot of grace.
I will say that we've had a few parents reach out to us and say, in your one-to-one meeting, can you tell my kid to sit down and do his work? Like, he won't listen to me. So, but he'll listen to you guys. Will you tell him? I'm like, sure, we'll be the bad guys. So some of the parents are saying, hey, we need you to come in and back us up and say, hey, this is what our family is doing is from 8 to 11. We're doing school. So you better be sitting down because your teacher's going to be Zooming you at 11. So even just kind of being like the bad guy for the parent, that's happened quite a few times too.
That's interesting.
I read something that really struck me at the beginning of this because it is just so, well, it's just so anxiety filled with just knowing what's the right thing to do for everyone and making sure that we always keep it kid centered. Like, what's the best thing for the kids? I can't be doing what makes me feel better or just what makes my teachers feel better or what makes the state happy. Like, what's the best thing for our kids? And I read this article about Hurricane Katrina kids and how when they went through that, they were done. Like, because there was nothing they could, like, there was no services available, and that they're fine. They're doctors and they're lawyers and they're teachers and these kids are fine. Like, so this person was just like everyone can just breathe. Like, we are doing more than they got ever, and they are still fine. So we have to remember that even if we're doing a little, even if we're just trying to keep kids' brains thinking, even if they just read every day, and talk about what they read, and then we're gonna be okay. It's not gonna be the same, and it can't be the same because this has never happened. So we have to try to just kind of say, okay, if we do a little bit today, that's gonna be okay.
Yeah. I think that's so true. And honestly, I think one of the things we talked about the first week was just how, kids can learn in different ways. And maybe this is even an opportunity to, have our kids learn in different ways. At school, they can't be as active as they can be. And how, we had an occupational therapist here last week who was talking about ways to keep kids, active and, when they're inside. And so maybe this is a really good opportunity to incorporate some of that kind of thing into our schedules for these kids. So what would you say to the parent who is trying to decide which direction to, a lot of the questions that we're getting, am I required to follow everything that my teachers are sending? What is it okay for me to decide that this isn't really good for my child to keep trying to do, 6 hours of school every day or whatever they're trying to do? What would you say to that parent? Now, obviously, every state is different, and what's being expected is different, but what would you say to that parent?
I would say, no matter what, you're the parent. Like, you know your kid better than anybody else in the whole world. And the number one job that you have as a parent is to make sure your child grows up into a well-balanced, emotionally healthy individual.
Mm.
So you know what they need to make that happen. Or maybe you're so tired you don't know what they need and you need advice. But at the end of the day, that schoolwork is to serve the purpose of helping them become emotionally healthy. And if schoolwork's not serving that purpose, then we need to come out it a different way. I've heard from our public school teachers and our private school teachers in our county how they're doing very different things depending upon what that family needs. So have that communication with your teacher, with your ESE team, if you have access to that, or your principal. They are there to serve you.
I completely agree with that. I think it's communication. You know, I think you do know whether this is going to work for you. And if it isn't going to work, then the challenge of trying to continue that over and over and over is like Judy was saying, like, that's not going to be emotionally best for anyone involved in the family. And sometimes people just need permission to say, I'm going to take a break and see what else we can do, you know. And if they quit pushing, sometimes kids will come back and maybe want to try a little something. But it's, you know, I just think it's really important to communicate about it, and you do know what is best. And if it's not working, it's not working, and you have to advocate for your child. And I think most educators really want to help you with that and would listen to that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's what I would think too. I
have one more
I'd
thought.
love to hear you. Yeah.
The one thing that I heard from parents this week is that they're being inundated with like emails, and the school's desire to make sure that communication is good. We're like killing our parents. And if they have more than 2 kids, they have different schools. The parents are just like, I just can't with all the emails. So I've had when we finally picked up the phone and called a family or two, like, hey, we haven't heard from you in like a week and a half. Are you guys okay? And they're like, yeah, the emails, they just need to stop. So we said, okay, is there a point like a week from now that we can set up a time to talk with you about school? So then I had a couple parents, I put out we had to do a little newscast on Wednesday morning. I said, hey, if this is too much, just email me. And a parent said, hey, can we touch base like next Wednesday and just leave us alone till then? And I put them on a block contact list, like just leave them alone for a little while. That's helpful too, because that lets us know that everyone's okay. It's just, they're just adjusting to their new reality as well.
That I was getting that feedback too, that parents were just saying, oh my gosh, I've got 4 kids and I'm getting like, tons of emails from all the teachers. And so I just don't even know where to start. So that's really great advice, just to say, hey, you know what, I'm really overwhelmed with all of this. Is there a better way that we can communicate, or can you just give me like the basics of what I really need to do, and the rest of it, I just am too overwhelmed. Because, if you've got, it's one thing, like when I did homeschooling with the kids, and people need to understand this isn't really even homeschooling, because homeschooling, you have time to prepare, and you can go do field trips and do things, this is different for even homeschoolers. But, when I did homeschooling, a lot of times we would do the same thing for all the kids, certain things are all the same. And if you have a lot of different information coming in from different teachers, that can be very, very overwhelming.
I'm going to break in just real quick, Jenny, and say, for people who are here just sitting and listening, that's great. But if you have a question, feel free to just type it in the chat, and we'll see if we can, we'll definitely get to it during the conversation here in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, by the way, Lynn, did you had that one study that you were looking at? I thought that would be kind of interesting to throw in there. Because, I think a lot of the parents are really worried, is my kid can get behind, in all of this.
Well, I'd be interested in everyone's opinions, because this is a question that comes up a lot, which is, well, maybe it's a question of fear. The parents are like, my kid's already behind. They've already had all this hard stuff in life. They're already 2-3 years behind their peers. Now what's going to happen? Now I'm feeling pressured. I got to push them, right? Now, I'm not an educator, but in some, well, the studies that I've been looking at to answer this question pretty much indicate that, especially for younger kids, it almost doesn't matter that much when they start or how they start. By 3rd, 4th grade, they're pretty much catch up anyway. Everybody kind of gets to the same spot. And that kids who have a lot of trauma, there's a developmental echo where they're always sort of that far behind their entire life. There's not that much we can do about that. So I guess I would respond to those questions. And I guess I put in those notes, by the way, some links to those studies. But what do you guys think about that? Has that been your experience? And is there a lot that we could be? Is there a lot we should feel pressure to be doing for those kids right now to help them catch up, or just let it go?
I'm
Go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say, I'm like with my own children, I'm taking it as an opportunity to focus just on areas where they have difficulty that they might not have the chance to do at school. Like, for example, with my son, he receives special education support for math, and he's really missing a lot of his early he's in 5th grade. He's really struggles with multiplication and division. Well, he needs those to do the pre-algebraic stuff they're doing in fractions and things like that. So we're trying to just focus on that stuff. And it's like, cause I mean, once you get to like 6th grade math, unless you like really know your math. So it's like, it's also something that I, as a parent, can help him with, and just fill in those areas.
And I think it's like, I think we need to think of it like these kiddos that come with the trauma and the stuff, we're always trying to fit them into the box of what school is supposed to look like. And, it could be such a breathtaking moment, like take a breath for these kids that aren't no longer trying to fit what we're telling them school looks like. And these parents can take a moment to just do nothing, or do something totally different, like you were saying, or find virtual field trips and learn through a different means, like find the thing they love and work through things that way. Like, I think it gives so much more room if parents just know they have permission to do that. Of course, I can't give every parent permission because I don't know what the state and the principal will say, but that is my take on it. It's kind of like what you were saying, Jenny, like this could be a gift in having the pressure off a little bit, because it's hard.
I think my favorite quote from this time, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I think my favorite quote from this time started with Jenny, and I think I've heard it repeated over and over again, that a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, our kids aren't going to remember what they learned during this time, but they are going to remember how they felt during this time. And that needs to be a priority. What did my kid feel? How is he feeling? How am I feeling? How can we create an environment where I'm taking care of myself, which for some of our families is really tricky.
Mm-hmm.
How can I get a support team so I can take care of myself and then create an emotional safety for my kid? I also had someone ask this week, what have you learned about your kid and the way they learn that you didn't know before? So my parents are saying, oh, my kid's doing this. I didn't know that this was interesting to them, or this is the way they learned. So noticing those new things about your child.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Lynn, I can answer that chat question too.
Please go for it, Judy.
Okay.
Want to read it and then answer it?
You're going to read it or me?
No, go ahead. You read it and then answer it. That's a good question.
Okay, hang tight. She says, all joking aside, the math. If we are teaching the way we learned, are we going to mess it up for future learning? So I can just give you a lot of experiential and anecdotal and a little bit of data. I have a master's in math education. And what my program does here is we bring kids in from 3rd through 10th grade who are not functioning well in a classroom setting or at home. And they live with us for about 18 months. So and we do a diagnostic test when they come in. All of our curriculum is like old school curriculum, like old, like 1970s kind of curriculum. So we're doing all the math that we grew up on. And every single one of our kids that has taken up through our pre-algebra classes, they have all taken, our high school students that have finished Algebra 1 have taken the PERT test, which is our requirements to get into community college. And even after 1 year of Algebra 1, they've all passed it. So the point is that when we go back and we hit those foundational math concepts that they missed, because when you have kids from hard places, there's these gaps in their learning. And our goal is to figure out what those gaps are and kind of fill those foundations in. So when they matriculate back to the public school, they're successful. Our kids are going to be hugely successful in the Common Core after getting what we would consider very old school math foundational concepts. So no, I think at this point, you're only going to make your kids stronger at math. Drill those multiplication tables, do all kinds of fun games with them. That's the only thing you do is throw multiplication flashcards at each other every time they get them right. Excellent math day.
That's a really great question because, you know, they've been teaching math differently now with the Common Core. And so, you know, do you like the way they do it now, I wouldn't be able to figure it out. I mean, I, you know, just kind of look at it and go, so I can understand. That's a really good question. Any other thoughts on that?
My daughter is in second grade and math is what she loves. And I don't want, she's really struggles with reading and spelling, and math is what she really enjoys. So I don't want in any way to, she's almost teaching me, and I'm just, if I could see the answer, I can almost help her get there. You know, she's kind of telling me how they're doing it, but I really want to make sure that it's something she's very confident with. And that is so important to me that she stay that way. I want to make sure that I don't help her unlearn anything.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, and, you know, I think when you're talking about her teaching you, I think that's actually a really great opportunity because you're kind of coming into her world. And so, you know, and they say that the best way to learn something is to teach it to somebody. So, you know, if she kind of helps you get caught up with how they're doing it now, that might be kind of a cool bonding moment too. So that's a really great question. So one of the questions too is like, so basically say you have 4 kids and the teachers are offering the online live classes and a lot of times at the same time. So, but they only have 1 computer. How do you prioritize that? You know, do they have to attend? How does that work if they're doing the live classes and you might have limitations?
For this one, I feel like this just comes down to communicating with the teachers. Because if they are doing, you know, synchronous, like live things at the same time, obviously you can't multiply that computer. Teachers are going to be really understanding. They may either, you know, be recording their lesson and be able to send that to the student, or have some kind of alternative. But that's the kind of stuff that we're, as educators, are required to be flexible with. Yeah, and really, if that is the case, if they're requiring students to be on it at certain times all at the same time, they really should be providing some kind of an electronic device too, so that they're not all having to depend on one computer.
Well, and they might not know, you know, like every teacher's kind of in their own little, okay, I have to do my providing, you know, and so unless you communicate and say, we can't do that, then they'll go, oh.
That time doesn't work for us. Yeah, I think a lot of it just comes down to communication, it sounds like. I mean, you know, just, hey, either this isn't working for us, or is there some other way, or something, you know, or hey, just even I'm overwhelmed.
But even with the communication, like what I'm understanding, like I had a huge learning curve, is that my families are tapped out. So if they're not communicating with me, it's not because they don't want to, it's because they're everything else, their job, their aging parents, somebody in their families tested positive. They're tapped out as well. So we have just tried to communicate that to each other in the private school district, like just be super, super grace upon grace upon grace upon grace, both ways. Because we're tapped out too. Because I have parents texting me all day, hey, I didn't get the link. So I'm continually resending links and can you email me this? And I'm like, well, I have like 6 meetings right now. I can resend that link that I've already sent you 4 times in like 5 minutes. So I think the communication goes both ways too. Yeah.
I just want to take a stab at that technologically, because all year long I've been doing telehealth from wherever we are in the world. And a lot of people just forget that 9 times out of 10, the cellular connection on your phone is way better than the Wi-Fi in your house. And so if they only have 1 computer, there's tablets and there's cell phones, and all these apps work from those too. So they might not know that there's resources they have available in case the kid wants to be involved.
Yeah.
It's about out of time, Jen. We probably should go to small group soon, but I don't know what other questions we have in the next couple minutes.
Okay, there was just another question. Let's see. I'm supposed to follow an IEP and do the OT and speech therapy in addition to everything else. I also would like to only do the work to fill in the fundamentals, but I'm getting pushback to follow the lessons the teacher is providing. I want to only fill in the gaps with both my boys. I've contacted the teachers 2 times. My boys are so dysregulated and loud, and my husband's working from home. Our Wi-Fi and internet is spotty now with so many people on the internet. So can I just say I'm finished with schooling? This isn't working out for us. So, I mean, obviously every school district is different, but what would you guys say to that?
Well, I think under any IEP law, the parent has the right to say, at this time, this isn't the least restrictive environment for my child. You know, like I think a parent can say, I'm not going to utilize services now. Don't drop out of services, because then you have to get requalified again to get into services. But you can just say, at this moment, you know, I'm not going to utilize the services, and we are going to do it ourselves. I mean, I think you could do that. I think if you just say this right here, they'll want to listen to you, I hope.
Well, and I would hope that most educators would understand. I mean, we do still have a lot of educators that really don't understand trauma and the effects of trauma and that sort of thing. So we're still kind of dealing with that. But I would hope, you know, I think most families are kind of have been in a little bit of chaos. And so I would hope that they would understand that, you know, this is a little bit different time. And, you know, I guess from my perspective, I would say, you know, if we're, again, if we're having to choose between our house is in chaos because we're trying to get all this stuff done and everybody's mad at each other and frustrated and emotionally it's charged, I would rather people kind of take a break and learn in other more fun ways than to really try to push that. But, and by law, can they require parents to do this? I mean, I think that's where the equality comes in.
Yeah, that's not how I interpret it, but
No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I just read an update today. I just read an update today from the U.S. Department of Education on exactly what the IEP mandates mean and what does the Fair and Equitable Act mean. And it basically says that you have access to everything and that we have to provide it, but you only have to provide as much as being provided to all the other students. And that I mean, it says in there like 6 times, like we're all figuring this out. Like just give it some time. Don't like Chris said, don't back out of your IEP services because you're super frustrated right now. Like just say, hey, we're on hold. Like give yourself a couple weeks to figure out this new environment that we're all living in, because I don't even think we realize ourselves how much stress we're under. And then our body starts showing it, or our behaviors, our children, we see it in their dysregulated behavior. Just give yourself time to figure this out. There's no rush. Most school districts have already said, we're not counting year-end testing. We're promoting all the children. We're not giving grades. I mean, for the vast majority, that's what we're hearing. So I don't think there's going to be any kind of penalty for not following it.
That's what I was going to say was, just to be completely blunt, they're not going to hold your children back, especially if they have an IEP, because you could sue the heck out of them. I'm sure you're not the type of person that wants to do that. But like when it comes down to it, the school district wants to cover their butt as much as possible. And so if you know, I think it's good that you've contacted the teachers so you have a little bit of a paper trail as far as like, we've done our part. But if you can't do what they're providing, you can only do what you can do.
You just say, this isn't best for my family or my children at this time. So we'll let you know when we're ready and when and if we're ready.
Well, I just want to say something real quick. You know, Lynn has done this training with Bruce Perry, And they talk about how the brain is developed from the, the bottom up. And a lot of learning happens here, where a lot of our kids are still back here. And, a lot of the stuff that benefits them and actually builds the brain is the stuff that we talked about last week, the proprioception and, active moving stuff, that kind of thing. So, your kids might be better off doing yoga or something like that than actually doing, forcing their math stuff or whatever at this point, because that might actually, and the bonding stuff might actually build their brain more. So I'll kind of leave with that. We're going to go ahead and go into small groups, and we're going to keep our panel here so that if you guys want to continue asking them questions, then you can stay in the large group. But otherwise, we've got our small groups.